Within this film study, I'll be exploring the use of editing and montage theory within Sergei Eisenstein's 1925 propaganda piece, Battleship Potemkin, and how it has changed and evolved in a modern context within Martin Scorsese's 1981 drama, Raging Bull. Montage is defined as a sequence integrating a multiple variety of shots over a period of time to summarize a continuous process of ideas. During 1917 Soviet Russia, the large population of the country was found to be mostly illiterate and uneducated, showing signs of underdeveloped communication across the region. Vladimir Lenin and his fellow Bolshevik leaders recognized this weakness in Russia and took up the task to inform the newly unified population of 160 million people about the revolution through the means of film. He believed that of all the arts, the most important for us is the cinema, and that film could be used as a power to drive propaganda and education. Due to a film stock shortage, Lev Kuleshov, a teacher at the Moscow Film School, would obtain important films like D.W. Griffith's Intolerance and rearrange and construct new sequences using the original film's scenes to experiment if it affected the meaning of the original story. Not only was this practice resourceful, but each new combination of intolerance scenes evoked different emotions and ideas to the audience. Kuleshov would experiment with this phenomena, utilizing the relation between the same original shot of an actor's unemotive face, cutting to a variety of different shots, such as a bowl of soup, a dead woman inside a coffin, and a girl playing with a teddy bear, and then cutting back to the actor's unemotive face. Responses to the sequence would vary to the audience depending on what the middle shot was, whether it depicted the actor as hungry, mournful, or caring. Kuleshov deduced that there are two values drawn to the audience from a shot. The first is the face value of an image itself, and the second being the idea conveyed as a result of the juxtaposition of two images. This would later be known as the Kuleshov effect. It was decided by Kuleshov that films are not created when they are filmed, but when they are assembled and edited, which Soviets labeled as montage. Eisenstein's Battleship Potemkin is a silent Soviet film which dramatizes the true events of the revolution of 1905, capturing the mutiny and short-lived victory of the ship's Russian sailors against the tyrannical rule of their officers. Potemkin is an agitprop made to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the 1905 revolution. Specifically, Eisenstein sought to praise Russia for overcoming the Tsar's power and glorifying the power of the revolution as a force for peace and harmony. In the context of Eisenstein, montage is utilized to instill specific emotional connections and ideas between the oppressive Cossack forces and the sympathetic people of Odessa. Of all the scenes in Battleship Potemkin, the famous Odessa step sequence stands out as a culmination of Eisenstein's studies of Soviet montage theory. Like Potemkin, Raging Bull aims to dramatize a real-life story through the use of montage theory to elicit emotional responses from the viewer. Scorsese's Raging Bull presents the story of Jake LaMotta, a boxer who aims to win the middleweight crown for the first time. Throughout his turbulent personal life in 1941 America, he grapples with his inner jealousy and rage, and how his sexual insecurities send his life into a constant downward spiral. The Odessa step sequence begins with the crowds of citizens from Odessa celebrating the returning Russian sailors on the battleship. Eisenstein first characterizes the many kinds of individuals present in the crowd by cutting between shots of cheerful old and young women, an upper-class lady, an impoverished disabled man, and several shots of young children. This form of montage is known as tonal montage, where the shots cut based on their emotional tone. In placing these specific characters in shots next to each other, Eisenstein used a tonal montage to reflect how the harmonious citizens of Odessa are unified regardless of their gender, age, race, or wealth. From this, Eisenstein suggests that the Cossack soldiers which murdered the town are merciless and have disrupted the harmony and peace of freedom in order to draw sympathy from the audience. Similarly to Battleship Potemkin, Scorsese's Raging Bull utilizes tonal montage in the home video scene, where the scene cuts between still shots of Jake's victories throughout the years and his personal life. Scorsese utilizes still frames to characterize Jake's boxing, which allows the audience to feel the impact of Jake's punches whilst not showing the full movement. This is a form of tonal montage, as Scorsese cuts between Jake's actions to underscore the brutality and violence of the boxing ring to the audience. Between these boxing matches, the audience are presented with clips of Jake's marriage, his brother's marriage, and his loving family. During this montage, Scorsese cuts on shots which capture the joyful facial expressions which conveys the audience the other side of Jake's life as a boxer, being a loyal brother and loving husband. These are presented through home video material, capturing the moments of the character's private and personal memories and experiences. Through this tonal montage, the audience is given an insight into Jake's personal life outside of the ring in order to humanize Jake, adding a sense of realism and depth to the characters, as this imagery is akin to the audience's own nostalgic memories of happiness. Whilst introducing the Cossack soldiers, Eisenstein utilizes metric montage to emphasize their cold, merciless presence, Metric montage occurs when cuts are made based on a set duration of time, regardless of the substance in the scene. The unfaltering and emotionless soldiers are portrayed in clips with short duration, which Eisenstein uses to separate the viewer from the Cossacks and to restrict the connection made between the audience and the Cossack government. In comparison, Eisenstein characterizes the townfolk using long-lasting clips of citizens running down the stairs in complete chaos. The prolonged duration of the shot is meant to emphasize the pure dread and helplessness the innocent civilians are enduring as a result of the calculated and merciless Cossack soldiers. This aids to further push Eisenstein's propaganda field message that the Cossack soldiers are the faceless antagonists that have perpetrated this bloody massacre onto the innocent civilians. Metric montage is also present within Raging Bull's fight scene, when Ray is about to fight Jack and Scorsese lingers on a shot of Jack breathing heavily engulfed in steam. This prolonged duration, like Potemkin, is used to anticipate the audience towards Jack's brutal beating and allows them to fully capture Jack's conflicted expression and how his internal mental anguish has led him to this point of no return. Alternatively, in Battleship Potemkin, once the soldiers begin to move towards the crowd of civilians, Eisenstein presents several shots of the townsfolk running down the Odessa steps. Eisenstein uses rhythmic montage, which happens when the cuts between shots are timed to the movement of the subjects in frame. In this case, the cuts are made when the citizens of Odessa are fleeing down the stairs from the Cossack soldiers, which maintains the movement and raises tension of their presence, whilst not showing them in the frame. Another use of rhythmic montage is when Eisenstein cuts to the action of the Cossacks firing their rifles. This is most evident when the mother and her son are running down the stairs, when suddenly the scene cuts to the rifles firing. Eisenstein utilizes the abrupt rhythmic montage to emphasize the shock value of the rifles, to impact the audience, further capturing the violence and brutality the citizens endure. Raging Bull shares this usage of rhythmic montage as seen during Jake's final boxing match against Sugar Ray Robinson. Whilst being continuously punched in the face by Ray, the scene cuts on both the impact of the punch itself and the sudden flashes of the camera in very sudden succession. In particular, when Ray winds up a hook from his left arm, the scene cuts to a shot of Jake being hit with Ray's right jab. This lack of continuity allows for the audience to experience firsthand the distorted perspective of the fight and how your sense of reality begins to fade whilst in the ring. Like Eisenstein, Scorsese utilizes the methods of Soviet montage theory in order to accentuate the bloody and vicious end of Jake's boxing career, displaying to the audience how the once triumphant and powerful Raging Bull has sunk into a pathetic and weak state. Eisenstein also utilizes intellectual montage during the prominent scene when the mother brings the body of her son to the Cossack soldiers, pleading them to stop. Intellectual montage occurs when cuts are made between two seemingly unlinked shots that, when paired together, create a new intellectual meaning. During this scene, we begin with the mother beginning to walk up the steps with her child in her arms. In conjunction with this, Eisenstein then cuts to shots of different citizens from various backgrounds, beginning to approach the Cossacks, attempting to convince them to stop this massacre. Eisenstein continues to cut between the Cossack soldiers moving down the steps to the rallying citizens moving up the steps. Through constantly presenting these different images that would previously have their own individual meaning, Eisenstein conveys a single message to the audience. The parallels between the mother carrying her child along with the rallying citizens conveys to the audience how the Odessa Russian citizens are valiant and brave to stand up against the oppressive forces. This speaks to Eisenstein's central intention of the agitprop, which is to unify Russian citizens and glorifying the peace and harmony of society, central traits of the revolution. Finally, Scorsese's use of intellectual montage is present during the home video montage. Whilst tonal montage is clearly used to show the distinct emotions of the boxing frames and home video, Scorsese's choice to coincide both clips presents a completely new and different idea. As a result, the stark contrast between the brutal black and white boxing frames paired with the vintage home video clips present the audience with two polar opposite emotions of violence and joy. This intellectual montage's conflicting emotions instills the audience with the idea that this joyful life with a family that loves him, that Jake longs for, is ultimately unattainable due to his inner rage and bitterness, which binds him to a life of violence. Sergei Eisenstein's Battleship Potemkin gives audiences an insight into the power of montage as a tool to provoke emotional responses. Specifically, montage theory is used to characterize both the oppressive Cossack soldiers, symbols of unjust power, and the sympathetic Odessa Russian citizens, who are unified and harmonious. Similarly, in the case of Scorsese's Raging Bull, we are given a deep understanding as an audience through the use of montage towards the real-life story of Jake Malota, and how his anger resulted in his tragic downfall. Whilst both films share similar Soviet techniques, Potemkin antagonizes a one-sided and merciless group of individuals through montage, whilst Raging Bull aims to present an intricate study of a central character driven by complex motives and desires. In conclusion, it can be seen that the influence of Russian montage theories, despite dating over 100 years ago, can still be seen in contemporary films today and has shaped the way in which all filmmakers assemble and construct their films.